Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to another Heresy rules video, because there's new rules today. This is a pretty important one. Army building in the new edition. Personally, I'm pretty indifferent to how it worked in 2.0, just because it was just kind of, this is the detachment, fill it out. So I wouldn't mind if there was maybe a little bit of variety in how the detachments worked. I did see that this leaked the other day, but it was pretty low res, so I didn't look too much into it. So I'm going to cover it here. So, I'll keep it. Yep. The Force org chart is still here, of course. So I saw this, right? You have a primary detachment. This is sort of what you will always have as the core, and then you can build from there, which does feel a little bit more like the word detachment makes sense because you can attach them to your core detachment. So, to illustrate the system, we'll be looking at the Crusade Force org chart, the standard arrangement. Other factions made minor differences to the rules, but they all follow similar structural? I have a frog in my throat, sorry. Your army begins with its primary detachment, which contains a number of slots to be filled by different battlefield roles. These roles are similar to classic categories, HQ, troops, heavy support, and the like, but there are some differences. Certain kinds of units, such as Terminators and Dreadnoughts, now have separate role types. We'll take a look at these later. This is the Crusade primary detachment. So High Command, I assume this is your Warlord. It's just they will become your High Command. And presumably, or maybe it's like Praetors, get the High Command keyword, and then Command would presumably be Centurions. And then Troops and Transports. So it looks like that's a Rhino, so I assume dedicated transports are gone. So you just they have to take up a slot, no just endless Rhinos. So high-ranking officers go into the High Command slot, with secondary officers fit in the command slot, basic infantry and troops, and light transports in the transport slot. The first major change is there's no such thing as compulsory units anymore. Free to leave out whatever you wish. However, there are bonuses when you opt into specific prime slots in each detachment. These are explained below. That must be what these spikes are. I do think that's fine, personally. So, that's just... I actually think this is a better way instead of just making you take them. So instead of being a troop tax, there's actually a benefit to bringing them. I'm not saying that I dislike the troops in this game. In fact, I think they're actually quite well balanced. But I do think that's actually a smart idea to make it not so much compulsory, but very beneficial to fill in these slots. So detachments. So it looks like this is where you're going to get the rest of your units, because this is just your core, right? Your Centurions, your Praetor, your Legionaries, and your Rhinos. So this is where your command slots come in. For each one you fill, you may add one. Oh, okay, so I see. So you only get extra detachments if you fill your command slots. So yes, technically you don't have to, but you're going to be highly limited if you don't. So for each one you fill, you may add one auxiliary detachment to your army, or two if you enlist a regular non-consul. So consularis still exist, very happy about that. Centurion, each of which include one or more slots for other battlefield roles. They are in no particular order. Armored Fist, which is heavy transports like the Land Raider, plus additional light transports. That makes sense. Armored Fist is usually infantry and vehicles. So it looks like it gives you 4 slots for other transports and 4 slots for heavy transports. The tactical support, additional troop slots plus support slots for special and heavy weapon squads, apothecaries, and other units. Okay, that's interesting. So you only get them. So you have. Oh, that also would include like rapier batteries. Okay, that makes sense. And then you have the armored support, which is your armored slots, which would be tanks and other armored vehicles. Heavy support, war engine slots for dreadnoughts and other war machines. You only get one of those per detachment, so they're very heavily limiting how many dreadnoughts you can bring. Combat pioneers, reconnaissance slots for light infantry and bikers. That would be your seekers, your Spatha combat bikes, things like that. Shock assaults is heavy assault slots for terminators. I'll be using a lot of those. And first strike, fast attack slots for aircraft, jet bikes, and speeders. Vehicle squadrons, dreadnought talents, and other similar unit types no longer exist, so each individual unit will take up its own slot. You may take any auxiliary detachment as many times as you'd like, for instance, if you want to fill your army with dreadnoughts. Otherwise, you'll build your army as normal, adding units until your force limit is reached or you run out of available slots. Your High Command slot is special, as it allows you to take an additional auxiliary detachment or an apex detachment, so that would be where your Praetor is, or equivalent. Apex detachments are here for your best troops, such as the combat retinue, which gives you your command squad. So it looks like that's no longer necessarily tied to Master of the Legion. Officer Cadre, which is additional command slots, which themselves unlock more auxiliary detachments. An Army Vanguard, elite units such as veterans and Legion-specific specialists. So you can see there's a prime slot, or whatever it's called, here, here, and here. There are also ways to enhance individual units and add extra slots without taking up detachments. So, prime slots, yeah. You may have noticed the charts above have some slots have a special border around them, marking them as prime slots. For each one of these filled by a unit, you may select one of several prime advantages, which do all sorts of things from enhancing the fighting prowess of squad sergeants to bolstering your unit's advanced characteristics. Using the logistical benefit advantage, you can add any one battlefield role slot of your choice to the detachment. Using this, you can diversify your army even further without needing to use up a whole auxiliary or apex detachment, which is especially useful if you only want one of that particular battlefield role. Okay, so if you fill in your prime slot, you could add on a dreadnought slot, which could definitely be very powerful. Just another way to keep your army condensed and neat while freeing up your detachment slots for things like more troops. With these little extra boosts, you can give your army some real character and tweak it until the unit composition is just right, or if your units already fit neatly into your detachment, give a chosen squad or two an upgrade. So this is... wait. Using... So... you may select one of several prime advantages. Okay, so this is going to be a selecting thing. There's definitely a lot of choice here, which I'm really enjoying. More choice is usually just more fun. So the logistical benefit definitely seems like a strong one, but if you don't want to go with that, you could give a chosen squad an upgrade. They say up here, which do all sorts of things from enhancing the fighting prowess of your squad sergeants to bolstering the unit's advanced characteristics, which could be very useful if you're running a specific kind of army. That could potentially be backfiring in certain ways. In fact, just to show off what you can do with the new rules, we're going to borrow an Immaculate Raven Guard army from Warhammer Community's own Joel and remake his current 3,000 points list with as few changes as possible. So, here. So, Warlord Detachment, this is obviously where your Primarch goes. Looks like you also get a heavy transport, so he brought a Spartan, and then a Praetorian Command Squad. Interesting. With jump packs, then Praetor with jump pack. Librarian would be a console upgrade with the logistic benefit armor. Oh, okay, so he brought in a extra tank slot. And it looks like this just encompasses all tanks, because this is a Predator, but it's obviously taking up this Kratos. Then you have Catus Next, who I believe is probably just an epic hero that I don't know of. Or unique unit, I should say. Assault Squad, Prime Combat Veterans. That would presumably be the one that buffs your Sergeant, or maybe the one that gives you bonus advanced characteristics, and a couple tactical squads. Apex Detachment, which gives you your Army Vanguard, which gives you the Dark Fury Assault Squad, which is their unique jump squad. And then an auxiliary detachment of Shock Assault with Cataphractii Terminators. So it doesn't look like the overall process has changed. It's just that there's a little bit more customizability. You could focus more on certain things if you'd like, and aren't as limited by your support slots, which I think also just helps internal balance. For example, like heavy support in 2.0 was a really heavily contested slot because that's where Leviathans and Daradeos were, that it made it really hard to justify bringing a tank when you only had so many heavy support slots. I do think this is a pretty fun system, honestly. It feels very modular, because it is. But I'm not going to say it's like, it's flatly superior or anything like that. I think it's just a different take, and one that I'd say I probably prefer. I always like giving players more choice in how they build their armies. I think that's never really a bad thing. The Horus Heresy was a huge conflict, all sorts of different fighting forces, so I think it's best to let people represent all of those. And it looks like it's not too restrictive in any one way. You can, so long as you're being sensible about it, you can bring quite a lot. Even more so than you did before. The Warlord Detachment, they're going into that, is a special addition to your army that you can only use if you bring your Primarch along for a 3,000 point game, and it's a great way to add an extra retinue and heavy transport role slot. Sorry guys, the trash is getting taken, if you can hear that, without taking up any of your usual allowance. If we hadn't decided to add Corvus Corax to the list, we would need an extra retinue slot for the Praetorian Command Squad and an extra heavy transport slot for the Spartan. Here we could simply add an additional Centurion or Consul to unlock space for an Armored Fist, and change the prime advantage on the Army Vanguard to a logistical benefit for a retinue slot, or rearrange the existing detachments in other ways. There's still more to see from army building rules, including adding allies from other factions and special themed detachments for individual legions. We'll be back with more details in the near future in an article on vehicle rules on Friday. Note that dedicated transports are a thing of the past. They must all now be taken in their own slot, with a few exceptions, no adding titans to your bodyguards. Okay, I mean, that seems obviously pretty clear. They won't just going to let you add a warlord, a Lord of War to just any of your detachments using logistical benefits. Let me know what you think down below. I think this is just kind of a fun change, really. Adds in more modularity to army building, which I think is a good thing. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. Make sure to check in with my channel later because I'm uploading a video that's going to be pretty different. It's not the Sisters video. I'm working on that. But I'm actually working on a game, and I'm planning to do like sort of a devlog, if you will. Anyways, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.